This is DW News Africa. Coming up on the program, an historic apology from the Vatican. The Pope has apologized for the Catholic Church's role in facilitating the transatlantic slave trade. We'll talk about this and the Pontiff's AI warning with a senior Vatican official. And we hear from Ghana's queer community after the country's parliament passed a bill that imposes prison terms for homosexuality and LGBT advocacy. I'm Mhundwa. Welcome. Pope Leo has made a historic apology for the Vatican's role in permitting the transatlantic slave trade. Past popes gave European nations the right to enslave non-Christians, and more than 12 million Black Africans were taken captive and brought to the Americas. Leo, the first US Pope, is descendant from both slaves and slave owners. His apology was made at the presentation of his first encyclical, Magnificat Humanitas, a manifesto about safeguarding humanity in an era of increasing reliance on artificial intelligence. But the Pope went further, drawing a link between the historic slave trade and what he called new forms of slavery and colonialism that the digital revolution is fueling. He also warned that some autonomous weapons systems are beyond human control.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity. Only together, those who design systems and those affected by them, richer countries and poorer ones, institutions and individuals, power centers and peripheries, will we be able to build a future not for a privileged few, but for the entire human family.
One figure at the side of Pope Leo was Professor Leo XIV, a theologian. Originally from DRC, she criticizes tendencies toward neo-colonialism. Africa, she said, does not exist merely to be mined and exploited.
Colonialism assumes new forms. It no longer dominates only bodies, but appropriates data, transforming personal lives into exploitable information, end of quote. Yes, AI can very easily be.
And Professor Lushombo is back in Berkeley, California, where she teaches at the Jesuit School of Theology of Santa Clara University. Welcome to DW News Africa, Professor. We will get to the point you were making on AI potentially being a new form of colonialism. But I want to first begin with Pope Leo apologizing for what he described as the Catholic Church's failure to protect Africans during the transatlantic slave trade. Can you remind us about the role the Church played at the time? And why did Pope Leo decide to make the apology now?
Pope Leo reminded the role of the Church in relation to slavery because just like all religious institutions, the Church and the Catholic Church also, felt to condemn slavery as it was happening and profited, from slavery. And this, throughout the years, the Church has been recognizing, so Pope Leo is not the first that actually recognized that failure to condemn slavery in the past. So previous Pope before him did the same. And the Church still recognizing that any form of slavery need to be condemned. And that's why apologizing for the failure to not condemning it, as much as it deserved to be condemned, and not get involved because, every institution literally, was involved in slavery throughout history.
Understood. In Magnificat Humanitas, Pope Leo is warning that artificial intelligence is leading to new forms of slavery. Can you explain that for us?
Yes. So one of the form AI is leading to is, and that Magnifica Humanitas underline, and that is very much related to slavery. It's the keeping people in condition of dependence, right? So slavery has this one characteristic of controlling human consciences, and AI tend to play that role. So Magnificat Humanitas is reminding that to be cautious in relation to that. And another aspect is the fact that workers are being used in many ways, predominantly women, working class, are being exploited, right? Given minimum wages or nothing at all. And another aspect that is related to AI as it's related to the supply chain of mineral resources is human trafficking and every aspect that is about commodification of persons.
Right.
So this aspect very much that picture what slavery looked like.
Right then. So what do you see, Professor, as the Catholic Church's role in governing, if I can use that word, artificial intelligence, coming off of the Pope saying there was this historic injustice in the form of the transatlantic slave trade that we benefited from, we didn't do enough to stand up for people, and now we are in this, sort of world where we're talking about this technology and the impact that it's having in communities like what you're describing for us. So what then becomes the Church's role in all of this as you see it?
The main role of the Church is really affirming human dignity wherever human dignity is being, overlooked. And the Church reminds that even since Pope Leo XIII, during the Industrial Revolution, so Pope Leo XIII did not really gather, different institutions that were involved in terms of, workers and exploitation of human beings, and Pope Leo XIV now has the opportunity in this time of more modern era, artificial intelligence, to gather different institutions. So the Church doesn't mean to govern AI. The Church means to facilitate and underline the principle of subsidiarity that has always been teaching, where everyone has a say and everyone has to gather on the table. And this is another aspect of the synodal church that the Church has embraced since Pope Francis, right? So people need to get together, on the table and discuss, how we can use artificial intelligence for the common good rather than the other way around, right? Rather than artificial intelligence to damage, the common good.
Understood.
So, and that the Church is playing.
Understood. Pope Leo appointed you to the dicastery of integral human development, and that effectively makes you one of the most senior female voices in the Vatican. Perhaps tell us about the work that you do in that role, what it entails, but also how does it feel having that responsibility?
Well, it feels very responsible, right? And also it feels being a church, being a member of the church, So it's a wonderful experience. And again, the experience where you have the opportunity to embody, right, the principle of participation, the principle of responsibility, that is for us all to embody. So this is my way of doing it. So I'm very grateful to be part of this. And all that is possible to learn through the dicastery. And another way is, I'm a teacher and I have been teaching, Catholic social teaching and economics. I have teaching Christian ethics and migration, political theology. So what is coming up through the dicastery is like, bringing all that together and, to teach really from the global perspective, which is one of the vision of Santa Clara University. So I really feel, responsible in that sense in terms of participating in this, global vision of affirming once more human dignity.
Well, thanks for that and for your time, Professor Leo XIV.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
In Nigeria, an AI-themed film is bringing that conversation home, showing how AI could help solve everyday challenges and inspire innovation. Make Nation, widely described as Africa's first feature film focused on artificial intelligence, is using storytelling to explore what an African AI future could look like. DW's Amaka Okoye reports.
My father is a welder and my mother sells akara. So I have no choice but to hustle and actually make it.
Who gets to imagine the future? In Nigeria, a new film is trying to answer that question by placing Africa at the center of the artificial intelligence debate. Make Nation tells the story of Zara, a young woman who discovers how to use AI not just to improve her own life, but to help her community.
Yes. Check your phone. My name is Zara Sadengi. I'm 17 years old, and I am the first of 4 children.
The film premiered in Nigeria last year and is now touring international festivals, adding an African perspective to a conversation often dominated by Silicon Valley and global tech giants.
You are all here in an experimental...
But for its creator, the goal was not simply to showcase innovation.
To make nation.
I made the film to become Africa's contribution to the global artificial intelligence agenda. I made the film to be able to spark up conversations, stimulate interest, drive passion, and represent Africa's voice at the intersection of cultural storytelling, artificial intelligence, complex problem solving.
We're ready when you are.
Toyosi Akarele Ogunsiji is a filmmaker with a background in education and AI policy. She says imagination plays a critical role in shaping who gets included in the future of technology. If young people do not see themselves reflected in innovation, she warns they risk being left behind.
So I knew that AI would become extremely disruptive. The extent to which I did not know, but I did not want Nigeria to play catch up when the world was already moving forward. It had to be placed right in the hands and the hearts of young people, especially young girls.
The film highlights both the promise and the challenges of artificial intelligence on the continent.
Because your lives are about to change.
Imagination may open the door, but it does not guarantee access. For many across Africa, the bigger question is not what AI can do, but who gets to use it, build it, and benefit from it. Akarele Ogunsiji says many of the global conversations around AI remain out of reach for everyday people.
We're talking about AI governance, AI ethics, AI safety, and these concepts are right above the heads of the ordinary person on the streets of Lagos or the streets of Kwara or the streets of Kano or the streets of Rivers State, right? So I really wanted ordinary people because I understood as far back as 8 years ago that of all the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence had the most radically transformative potential.
And even as the film celebrates that potential, it also challenges the hype surrounding the technology. During production, the team confronted the limits of AI firsthand.
AI doesn't feel, AI doesn't speak, AI doesn't think. It is trained to regurgitate what it has been given.
Make Nation does not offer simple answers to complex questions about inequality, access, and technological power. But it does offer something equally important: a vision. A future where young Africans like Zara are not just consumers of technology, but creators shaping it.
Ghana's queer community says it is under increasing pressure following the recent passage of a bill that criminalizes same-sex related activities. The legislation seeks to punish members of the LGBTQ community as well as organizations accused of promoting or supporting such activities. Although the bill is yet to be signed into law by the president, many within the community say they are already facing threats and living in fear. Isaac Kaleji in Accra spoke to one member of the community who says they are in distress.
Fear and uncertainty has become the norm for Stephen. Since Parliament passed an anti-LGBTQ bill last week, he's grown concerned about his personal safety as a queer person.
Every day, before you go to bed, you're already thinking, what's tomorrow going to be like? Is tomorrow going to be the day I am being attacked? Is tomorrow going to be the day I actually find myself wanting? You know, every day you wake up and you're just imagining, what's going to happen today? Am I going to be safe today? Am I going to, go through the day without being attacked, without being discriminated on, without being stereotyped?
After previous attempts at criminalizing same-sex activity, Ghanaian lawmakers have now pushed through this bill that could send Stephen and others like him to jail for up to 3 years.
Bringing out a bill to criminalize people who are law-abiding in the society, who pay their taxes, who participate in their democratic dispensations. I don't think a democratic state like Ghana should be bringing a bill to criminalize these people.
But the legislation goes beyond sexual minorities and also implicates people who support them through funding or advocacy. In fact, in most cases, citizens will be obliged to report any offenders or themselves risk imprisonment. Human rights activists warn that this bill would undermine Ghana's democratic progress.
Every society, when it starts becoming totalitarian, begins with its weakest members first, okay? And you got to understand that in the broad context of power, that the bully always goes for the weakest person they can bully. That is natural. And this is exactly what we are seeing. So if we open that floodgate where people can go to parliament and use the power of parliament to tinker and decide tomorrow, today might be LGBT conversation, tomorrow it could be something else. But if we open that window, we are actually opening up a pathway to authoritarianism down the road.
While the bill has a public support, there are still a few procedures ahead before it can be enacted, and that includes the president signing it into law. Stephen is hoping this period can stall or even reverse the bill. But in case that doesn't happen, he's making plans to go into hiding or even leave the country altogether.
With me in studio is Ghanaian musician Angel Maxine Opoku. Angel is a transgender woman and an advocate for LGBT plus rights in Ghana. Welcome to DW News Africa, Angel. Perhaps maybe let's just begin with you telling us a little bit about what life is like for people in the LGBT plus community in Ghana. What would people in the community be experiencing in terms of societal attitudes, but also perhaps representation in society?
Yeah, so in the Ghanaian LGBT community, you have to be careful every day. It's a life of you waking up not knowing if somebody is going to report you because they suspect you. It's a life of you going out not knowing if you're going to come back home if not attacked or hurt. And sometimes you have nice people in the society, and there are also people who are very homophobic and aggressive to the queer community. So it's a life of like trying to find a balance. There's danger, there's a weight on your shoulder every day, and that is how like living in Ghana looks like for queer people.
You identify as transgender, and I wanted to know when that started for you, that journey, and how people in your life responded to that.
I've always identified myself as a trans woman because growing up, I never identified myself as a gay man. And I would say I openly came out as I started transitioning and accepting who I am from 2016. That is when I started living my life as a woman, and I openly came out in 2019. And I would say it was very surprising to a lot of people because people thought that they would have seen the point where I started transitioning and where they will have the right to come and tell me how I'm doing it and it's not nice and blah, blah. But I just came out and that was it. And had a lot of backlash. I lost my job. My landlady sacked me from the house. It was a whole lot of chaotic moment for me coming out openly. Yeah.
Right. And I just want now to get your reaction to Parliament in Ghana passing the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill.
Well, when I heard that the bill was passed, in my head, I didn't know if I should cry or I should laugh or whatever. It was just a mixed feeling. But to me, with this bill, for me, I see it as a political propaganda in Ghana. And that is what everybody is seeing it play right now. And if you ask me about the bill has been passed now, but I strongly believe the president will not sign this bill. Yes, I see the president to be a very empathetic person. I think he's very well educated and he understands what it means to live in fear in Ghana. So for me, I don't think the president will sign this bill.
Right. At the same time, the Parliament seems to be essentially unanimous in its support for the bill. Is it correct to say that there's broad support in Ghana, this is among the public, for this bill?
There is support from the public for this bill because people do not know that they themselves can go to prison if this bill is passed. The idea what has been, presented to people is LGBT people want to get married. LGBT people want to sleep with kids. We just want to be promiscuous in the society. This is the idea people think it is. But they forget that it is their duty to report their own queer child. It is the duty of a mother to go and report their child if they are queer. There are so many things like this form of, if you have anal sex with somebody, whether man or woman, you go to prison. And this is not for just the queer community, it's for everybody. So people do not understand that this bill is coming for everybody.
And I just wondered, at what point is a society opening up to people who are different versus outright homophobia?
Yeah. Okay, so I think that if we want to talk about the queer community has always existed in Ghana. It has been, it is part of our culture. We have a name for it, meaning it is part of our culture. Queer people, we call Kojo Besia, we have Supi, we have Sasu. It is part of our culture. It's just that growing as it keeps, people start identifying and living their lives fully, it makes people uncomfortable and accept that these people were part of the society. And I think with the use of social media, a lot of things have come out. People are now being able to, be bold to identify themselves on social media. And this is what people are not happy about because they feel that the community should hide and shrink.
Right. I mean, just in terms of your activism, Could you give us a sense of just what you want to achieve ultimately? I know you've done a lot in terms of against this particular bill and the one that was before it. But overall, what is it that you would like for your country and your community?
For my country, I want them to know that queer people have existed among us and we have been there. Nothing have changed. I just accept that we all coexist and we live together as we used to live before. Before the introduction of this bill, even though it wasn't 100% safe place to live as a queer person, it wasn't as dangerous as it is now. I just want people to coexist, people to live, people to just accept people to just be who they want to be. And that perception of queer people want to get married, that is why we are fighting against the bill. No, this is not it. We just want our safety and security. We just want to live freely like any other Ghanaian without any tag. And that is all.
All right. Well, Angel Maxine Opoku, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. Be sure to check out our other stories on dw.com/Africa. See you next time. Bye-bye.